whiskey lovers, welcome to another one of my ramblings, and today we will be looking at Glenglassaugh. Glenglassaugh is a distillery that can be found on the coast at Port Soy, on that imaginary border between the Speyside and the Highlands. So basically it's a Highland single malt. It was built on the old Craig Mills farm owned by the wine merchant James Moore, his two cousins as well, Alexander and William Morrison, and of course the business partner, the coppersmith by the name of Thomas Wilson. Most of the Glenglassaugh production, way back when, went into the blends Teacher's Highland Cream, as I'm sure you know, and the production was up to 110 gallons until, of course, there was, at the turn of the 19th century, the Patterson crash that ruined it all. Glenglassaugh had to close in 1908, and it closed for over 40 years. It was not until 1950 that it was reopened, and by 1960 the capacity had doubled because they had installed two larger spirit stills and wash stills, two larger stills. All the production that was used at the time between 1960 and 1986, when it closed again, went into blends. For example, the Cutty Sark blend and the famous Grouse. So most of it was for the blends. In 1986 it closed again, and that makes Glenglassaugh one of those few distilleries that has been closed more than it has been opened since its foundation during its lifespan, which is a bit strange. But recently, in 2009, it was acquired by this Dutch giant of energy, the Scaent Group. I'm not entirely sure why an energy giant would possibly want a distillery in its portfolio. Well, maybe one of the board of directors was a fan of Glenglassaugh, or he simply loved this dram, and Glenglassaugh was available at the time. Anyway, they released at that time some old stocks that they still had, like the 26-year-old, the 30-year-old even, but they also started releasing their new make spirit under that name, the spirit drink that dare not speak its name, which was a tongue-in-cheek referral to the fact that it was not allowed to call it whiskey yet, because of course it has to mature for 3 years to be able to be called whiskey. They also had these the spirit drink that blushes to speak its name, because it was matured for 6 months, if I'm not mistaken, and it was a bit pinky, so hence the blush. And then there was this fledgling on bourbon cask, a fledgling peated, stuff like that. But then a few years ago, they finally launched their new spirit under the stewardship of Stuart Nickerson, who was then distillery manager, and he still is, if I'm not mistaken. They released their first aptly named Glenglassaugh Revival, and it was only 2 years later that this second official release came out, last year if I'm not mistaken. This is the Glenglassaugh Evolution. It's a special whiskey for two reasons. One, it is matured on ex-Tennessee casks. There's only 6,000 bottles available, and two, it is bottled at a high strength 57.2% ABV. That's the one we will be trying today. So the Glenglassaugh Evolution, 6,000 bottles only. It's got a bright colour. It's more like, well, pale straw to sunlight. It's not even golden yet. This is a very young animal. Let's not beat around the bush. This is very young, of course. But still, the nose is not as grainy and spirity as I would have expected from such a young animal. There's loads of vanilla in there. That's the bourbon cask, of course. Loads of vanilla. Butterscotch, toffee, and those sweet hints, they overpower the white fruit that can be found underneath. I get some apples and pears. There's a nice hint of coconut in there as well, and some fresh hay. This is actually a rather nice nose. On the palate then. It's got a very sturdy body. It's creamy, mouth coating. The attack is powerful, but despite the 57.2, we're not going to be needing any water. This is fine, this is nice. Again, honey sweet on vanilla. There's wood spice in there, some star anise. The apples are the golden delicious variety, very sweet, very nice. Again, sweet pears as well. The coconut returns. This is a nice continuation of the nose. There's nothing new in there, but that's okay. The nose is very consistent with the palate, or is it the other way around? very consistent, but it's well balanced. Despite the young age, it's not a kick in your teeth. The Tennessee cask, which by the way is not a Jack Daniels cask, it's a George Dickel cask. Well, just a tidbit of knowledge for you. Has really mellowed the spirit here. It's made it soft and accessible despite the high strength. No water is needed. The finish is medium long, and in the finish it's those spices that fade gently, and you get the coconut really shines through on the finish. This is a very, very nice, despite the young age, this is a very full flavored whiskey, and I must say I enjoy it. Now, this is probably, most likely, well, definitely the last release from Glenglassaugh under the stewardship of the Scaent Group, because they have recently sold the distillery to none other than Billy Walker and his team. Yes, that is right, Billy Walker and his team, who already own the BenRiach and the GlenDronach distilleries in Speyside, have just acquired this Glenglassaugh distillery in Portsoy. So that means if you know what they've done with BenRiach and GlenDronach, wood management wise, I think we are in for a treat in the near future with new Glenglassaugh releases. This is already a beautiful whiskey. Now, if Billy Walker and his team apply some wood management and allow it to mature to say 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, I think Glenglassaugh has a bright future ahead. And that's it for this Whiskey Rambling. I hope to see you again real soon at one of Mark's Whiskey Ramblings. Until then, may the malt be with you. Bye bye.